Welcome to Legacy Black of Power. 15 R&B stars who died of AIDS. What if I told you that behind those silky smooth voices and unforgettable R&B ballads lay stories the world tried to bury, tales of struggle, silence, and heartbreak? At the very peak of their fame, these artists lit up the stage with soul that touched millions. But when the spotlight faded, many were waging a hidden war against a virus clouded in fear, stigma, and secrecy. From chart-topping legends to rising stars stolen far too soon, these are the 15 R&B icons whose lives were tragically cut short by AIDS. Their voices may have been silenced, but their music and the legacy of their fight will echo forever. Sylvester James Jr. Sylvester James Jr., known to the world simply as Sylvester, was more than just a singer. He was a force of nature who redefined disco and soul. Born on September 6, 1947 in Los Angeles, Sylvester dazzled audiences in the late 1970s with anthems like You Make Me Feel Mighty Real and Dance Disco Heat. His soaring falsetto and flamboyant stage presence made him unforgettable, while his music, an electrifying mix of disco, gospel, and soul, helped shape the very sound of an era. But Sylvester's legacy went far beyond the dance floor. At a time when the music industry rarely embraced difference, he stood proudly as an openly gay black man, becoming a cultural icon in the LGBTQ+ community. His groundbreaking collaboration with producer Patrick Cowley fused futuristic electronic beats with his powerful vocals, creating timeless tracks that still ignite dance floors today. Tragically, Sylvester's life was cut short when he died of AIDS-related complications on December 16, 1988. He was among the first major stars lost to the epidemic, and his death forced the entertainment world to confront the devastating reality of the AIDS crisis. Yet even in death, Sylvester's voice continues to echo, bold, unapologetic, and mighty real. Germaine Stewart. Germaine Stewart wasn't just another name in R&B and pop. He was a voice that defined an era, best remembered for his 1986 smash hit, We Don't Have to Take Our Clothes Off. Stewart gave the world a playful, upbeat anthem that celebrated joy, self-respect, and fun without the pressure of intimacy. Born on September 7, 1957, he started out as a backup dancer and singer for Shalimar before stepping into the spotlight on his own. With his smooth, soulful vocals and magnetic stage presence, Germaine quickly built a loyal following throughout the 1980s. But behind the music and the fame, tragedy struck. Stewart was diagnosed with AIDS, a battle he fought quietly and courageously for years. On March 17, 1997, he passed away from AIDS-related liver cancer at just 39 years old. His untimely death was a heartbreaking reminder of how deeply the AIDS epidemic shook the music world. Not just disco and dance, but R&B and pop as well. Germaine Stewart's legacy lives on his music, a timeless reminder of joy, dignity, and the fleeting brilliance of a life cut short. Frankie Knuckles. Frankie Knuckles, celebrated worldwide as the godfather of house music, wasn't just a DJ. He was an architect of sound who forever reshaped the rhythm of nightlife. Born on January 18, 1955, in New York, Knuckles began his journey behind the turntables before making his mark in Chicago. There, in the early 1980s, he ignited a cultural revolution, blending soulful R&B vocals with hypnotic electronic beats to craft a brand new genre, house music. His groundbreaking style didn't just fill dance floors. It transformed them into sanctuaries of freedom, unity, and joy. Beyond the clubs, Knuckles bridged underground energy with mainstream appeal, producing and remixing tracks for major R&B stars while keeping the heart of house alive. Yet behind the legendary status, his health quietly declined. Battling complications linked to HIV and diabetes, Knuckles passed away on March 31, 2014. But though his life ended too soon, his legacy continues to pulse through every beat of modern R&B and electronic music. To this day, Frankie Knuckles' influence is not just remembered, it's felt. Kenny Green. Kenny Green, born on February 17, 1969, was a powerhouse lead vocalist and chief songwriter of the R&B group Intro, who rose to fame in the early 90s with hits like Come Inside and Love Tang. His rich, soulful voice and deeply personal lyrics carved a special place for the group in the new jack swing and contemporary R&B scenes. Green had a rare gift. He could blend silky smooth melodies with raw, heartfelt emotion, a talent that earned him deep respect from fans and fellow artists alike. But Kenny's legacy wasn't just about music. In the late 1990s, he made headlines when he bravely revealed that he was HIV positive, at a time when very few R&B stars dared to speak openly about the disease. His honesty helped shine a light on the devastating impact of AIDS within the music world, breaking silence and stigma. On October 1st, 2001, Kenny Green passed away from AIDS-related complications. Though his life was cut tragically short, the music he left behind continues to echo with passion and truth, reminding the world of a voice and spirit that can never be forgotten. Arthur Russell. Arthur Russell wasn't just a musician. He was a visionary who refused to be boxed in. An avant-garde cellist, composer, and singer, Russell blended R&B, disco, folk, and experimental sounds into something that felt entirely his own. Born on May 21st, 1951 in Iowa, he eventually made his way to New York City, where he became a vital force in the downtown music scene of the 1970s and 80s. With a voice both tender and soulful and a fearless approach to songwriting, he built a cult following that recognized his genius long before the mainstream ever could. Russell's music lived at the crossroads of vulnerability and innovation. His heartfelt R&B influences layered over daring soundscapes that would inspire generations of artists to come. Yet behind the brilliance, he faced immense struggles. Battling health complications from HIV, Russell's life was tragically cut short when he died of AIDS-related causes on April 4th, 1992. But even in death, his legacy grew. Posthumous releases of his work have cemented him as one of music's most influential hidden treasures, a pioneer whose spirit continues to echo across genres today. Patrick Cowley. Patrick Cowley was more than just a musician. He was a visionary who helped shape the future of dance music. Born on October 19, 1950, in San Francisco, Cowley became a master of synthesizers and drum machines, creating pulsating, futuristic rhythms that blended seamlessly with R&B and disco. His groundbreaking collaborations with Sylvester produced unforgettable anthems like You Make Me Feel Mighty Real, songs that defined an era and kept dance floors alive with energy. As a solo artist, Cowley pushed boundaries even further. His 1981 album Megatron Man showcased his bold use of sequencers and synthesizers, proving he was years ahead of his time. His sound would go on to inspire the birth of house and techno, cementing him as a cornerstone of electronic music. Tragically, his life was cut short on November 12, 1982, when he became one of the first well-known musicians to die from AIDS-related complications. Though his time was brief, Patrick Cowley's legacy lives on, echoing through every beat of modern electronic and dance music. Tony Washington. Tony Washington's story was anything but ordinary. A former NFL player, he traded the roar of the stadium for the soul of the stage, reinventing himself as a gospel and R&B singer. What he brought to music was rare, a fusion of athletic discipline, raw passion, and a voice that could lift spirits and stir hearts. Though little is known about his early years or time in football, by the 1980s and 1990s, Washington had carved out a place for himself with electrifying performances that blended the uplifting power of gospel with the smooth grooves of contemporary R&B. His songs carried messages of hope and faith, delivered with a richness that drew audiences in and left them inspired. Washington's transformation from athlete to artist was driven by determination and an unshakable connection to his faith, and every note he sang carried the weight of that devotion. But behind the music lay a private battle. Later in life, he revealed that he was HIV positive, and in the 1990s, complications from AIDS cut his journey short. His story is a poignant reminder of the diverse lives touched by the AIDS crisis, and how faith, music, and resilience can shape a legacy that still echoes long after the final note. David Cole. David Cole wasn't just a producer. He was a musical force of nature. Born on October 3, 1962, he rose to fame as one half of the explosive duo C plus C Music Factory, the team that redefined the sound of the early 90s. With his unmatched talent as a producer, songwriter, and keyboardist, Cole fused house, hip-hop, R&B, and pop into a sound so infectious it took over both clubs and radio stations worldwide. Alongside Robert Clivels, he gave us unforgettable anthems like Gonna Make You Sweat, Everybody Dance Now, Tracks that didn't just top charts, they became cultural milestones. His polished production, undeniable ear for melody, and fearless creativity made C+C Music Factory one of the most dominant forces in dance music at the height of their power. But Cole's genius went far beyond the studio board. He was a gifted musician and visionary, the driving creative engine behind the duo's success. Every note, every beat carried his touch. Tragically, that brilliance was cut short. On January 24th, 1995, David Cole passed away at just 32 years old from spinal meningitis brought on by AIDS. His death wasn't just the loss of a man, it was a silencing of a sound that defined an era. At the very peak of C+C Music Factory's influence, the music world lost one of its brightest and boldest innovators. Howard Rollins. Howard Rollins, born on October 17, 1950, was more than just an actor. He was a force of talent whose presence lit up both stage and screen. Best remembered for his unforgettable performances in the Oscar-nominated film A Soldier's Story and the hit TV drama In the Heat of the Night, Rollins brought a rare depth and intensity to every role he touched. His gift for portraying layered, complex characters earned him an Academy Award nomination for Best Supporting Actor, cementing his place as one of Hollywood's brightest rising stars of the 1980s. But behind the acclaim, Rollins faced battles far tougher than anything scripted for the screen. He struggled openly with substance abuse, seeking rehabilitation as he fought to reclaim control of his life. Then in 1996, tragedy struck when he was diagnosed with AIDS-related lymphoma, a devastating form of cancer linked to HIV. Just weeks later, on December 8th of that year, Rollins passed away at only 46 years old. At first, his family kept his diagnosis private, but in time, the truth emerged. His death was tied to the AIDS epidemic that claimed countless lives across the arts and entertainment world. Howard Rollins' passing was a sobering reminder that the crisis extended far beyond the music industry, leaving a mark on actors, singers, and creators from every corner of the spotlight. His story remains both a testament to extraordinary talent and a tragic symbol of a generation lost too soon. Joe Briath. Joe Briath, born Bruce Wayne Campbell on December 14, 1946, was a groundbreaking glam rock artist whose influence reached far beyond the glittering stage. With his soulful voice and theatrical flair, he left an imprint not only on glam rock, but also within R&B and pop circles. Rising in the early 1970s, Joe Briath shattered barriers as one of the very first openly gay rock musicians signed to a major label, a bold step in an era when LGBTQ+ visibility in music was nearly non-existent. His self-titled debut album fused glam rock's flamboyant spectacle with raw, heartfelt vocals, capturing attention for its daring originality. Yet, despite his talent and vision, Joe Briath's career struggled against an industry unwilling to fully embrace both his artistry and his identity. Tragically, his life was cut short on August 3, 1983, when he became one of the first well-known musicians to die from AIDS at only 36 years old. His untimely passing not only silenced a unique voice, but also stood as a painful marker in the early years of the AIDS crisis, a reminder of how many gifted artists, especially those brave enough to live authentically, were lost too soon. Ron Winans. Ron Winans was more than just a singer. He was part of the legendary Winans family, a gospel and R&B dynasty that forever changed the sound of contemporary gospel music. Born on June 30th, 1956, Ronald used his rich voice and heartfelt songwriting to help carry the family's mission, blending the soul-stirring power of gospel with the smooth rhythms of R&B. Together, the Winans broke barriers, bringing sacred messages into the mainstream and bridging two worlds that once seemed far apart. But behind the music, Ronald faced personal battles. In his later years, his health began to fail, with reports pointing to complications linked to HIV or AIDS. On April 17, 2005, he passed away, leaving behind not just grief, but also a sobering reminder how the epidemic had touched even the gospel community, a place many never associate with such struggles. Ronald Winans' voice helped define modern gospel's reach, its soul, and its spirit. His passing was mourned deeply by fans, family, and fellow musicians who knew how much of himself he poured into every note. His legacy lives on in the timeless sound of the Winans family, a sound that continues to inspire hearts around the world. Essex Hemphill. Essex Hemphill wasn't just a poet. He was a fearless voice for those the world tried to silence. Born on April 16, 1957, in Chicago and raised in Washington, D.C., Hemphill carved out a powerful space in literature and art, speaking directly to realities at the crossroads of race, sexuality, and identity. His work gave voice to the struggles and triumphs of black gay men, often with raw honesty and political fire. In the 1980s and 1990s, Hemphill emerged as a defining figure in the black queer arts movement. His words reached beyond the page, shaping documentaries like Tongues Untied and Looking for Langston, which boldly explored the truths of black queer life. His poetry cut deep, unflinching in its confrontation of homophobia within the black community and racism within the LGBTQ+ world. In 1994, his poem Vital Signs revealed his own battle with AIDS, a subject he rarely discussed publicly. Hemphill's health declined in the years that followed, and on November 4, 1995, he passed away at just 38 years old from AIDS-related complications. Yet his legacy remains untouchable. His groundbreaking art and activism gave voice to the marginalized during the height of the AIDS crisis and continues to inspire new generations to speak boldly, live authentically, and never be erased. Julius Eastman. Julius Eastman was far more than a composer. He was a fearless trailblazer who refused to fit into any box. Born in 1940, he carved out a sound that was entirely his own, weaving together the spirit of gospel, the soul of R&B, and the discipline of classical music into something raw, daring, and utterly original. His minimalist works pulse with passion, infused with both defiance and deep spirituality. In the avant-garde music scene of the 1970s and 80s, Eastman stood out not only for his talent, but for his courage. He used his voice and his music to confront race, sexuality, and identity head-on, never shying away from uncomfortable truths. Yet, despite breaking boundaries, his life was marked by struggle. Poverty and homelessness shadowed his later years, and AIDS eventually claimed his life in 1990 at just 49 years old. But Eastman's story didn't end there. Decades after his passing, his work has been rediscovered and celebrated for its raw honesty and emotional fire. Today, his music continues to inspire a new generation of artists who, like him, dare to blur the lines between genres and reimagine what music can be. Eazy-E, Eric Linwright, better known to the world as Eazy-E, wasn't just a rapper. He was a trailblazer who laid the very foundation of West Coast gangsta rap, a sound that would forever change both hip-hop and R&B. Born and raised in the streets of Compton, California, Eazy joined forces with Dr. Dre, Ice Cube, MC Ron, and DJ Yella to form NWA in 1986. Together, they shook the world with Straight Outta Compton, an album that ripped away the gloss of mainstream music and replaced it with raw, unfiltered truth about urban life. Their fearless storytelling and infectious beats not only redefined rap, but also left an undeniable stamp on the entire music industry. Eazy-E's voice was impossible to mistake. High-pitched, sharp, and urgent, cutting through every track with a style unlike anyone else. Beyond the mic, he proved to be just as influential behind the scenes. Through his label Ruthless Records, he gave rise to future legends like Bone Thugs and Harmony and cemented himself as a visionary executive. But in February 1995, the hip-hop world was stunned when Eazy revealed he had been diagnosed with AIDS. Only weeks later, at just 30 years old, he was gone. His death wasn't just a heartbreaking loss. It became a turning point, forcing the music community and the public to confront the devastating realities of HIV and AIDS at a time when silence and stigma often drown out the truth. Eazy-E's legacy lives on, not only in the artists he inspired, but in the culture he helped build from the ground up. Willie Ninja. Willie Ninja wasn't just a dancer. He was a revolutionary. Known as the godfather of voguing, he became the face of a movement born in the African-American and Latino LGBTQ+ ballroom scene of New York City. With razor-sharp lines, flawless precision, and unmatched confidence, Ninja turned voguing into an art form that demanded the world's attention. His influence stretched far beyond the ballroom. In the 1980s and 1990s, his aesthetic and movements helped shape the fusion of R&B and house music, leaving fingerprints on both genres. The landmark documentary Paris is Burning brought Ninja's brilliance to a global audience, while collaborations with figures like Malcolm McLaren and his work as a high-fashion model solidified his place as a cultural bridge between underground dance and mainstream entertainment. Ninja's style, grace, and unapologetic persona went on to inspire a generation of R&B artists, reshaping choreography and performance on some of the biggest stages in music. But behind the glamour and innovation was a life cut tragically short. In 2006, Ninja passed away from complications related to AIDS, a devastating loss for the very communities he had uplifted, transformed, and given a voice. Wayne Cooper. Wayne Cooper's voice was one of a kind. Best known for his soaring falsetto with the funk and R&B powerhouse cameo in the late 1970s and early 1980s, Cooper brought a shimmering texture that became part of the group's signature sound. Born in the United States, he carved his place in music history by blending funk, soul, and R&B into something unforgettable. Songs like Word Up and Candy lit up the charts, but it was Wayne's high, emotional range that gave the music its heart and soul. Tragically, his career was cut short when he passed away in 1984 from complications related to AIDS during the earliest, most devastating years of the epidemic. His loss was not just personal. It was part of a wave of heartbreak that shook the funk and R&B world, robbing fans of voices that can never be replaced. Still, Wayne Cooper's falsetto hasn't faded. It continues to echo through Cameo's timeless hits, a reminder of the passion, artistry, and energy he poured into every note. The legacy of artists like Cooper is bigger than their final days. Their music still moves us, inspires us, and connects generations. If this story opened your eyes or reminded you of music's lasting power, don't keep it to yourself. Drop a comment below. Tell us which artist touched your life the most, or share a name you think deserves to be remembered. Hit that like button if you learned something new. Subscribe for more untold stories, and ring the bell so you never miss a deep dive into music history. Thanks for watching.